I'm Rosemary O'Connor Carter. I was in the Philippines. Philippines 10 was my group in 1963 and 1964. And we were in a town called Dingli in Iloilo, Philippines. Stories that comes to my mind is that we were in Dingli when President Kennedy was shot. It was a Saturday morning there, and they were killing pigs outside our window, and the squealing was very loud, and our landlady, who had found us a place to live, came screaming into our apartment saying, "Kennedy was shot, Kennedy was shot." We had no radio, we couldn't get any other news, so we just took the local truck, the bus, into Iloilo and went to the Peace Corps headquarters to find out what was going on. One of the nice things that happened after that traumatic day was that each one of us, each Peace Corps person, got a telegram from President Johnson saying that we were doing what President Kennedy had a dream about, and we were doing it so that we should stay. Because there were several people that felt we wanted to go home because we wanted to be near people that were suffering like we were. So that telegram was really a very positive thing.
I'm Bob Carter. I too was with the Philippines 10, and we lived in Dingli, Iloilo province in the Philippines. Probably the biggest event for us in the Peace Corps was that we believe we were the first two Peace Corps volunteers to marry each other. We got married in Honolulu, Hawaii, after we completed training in Hilo. The application for marriage, which we thought was going to be simple, turned out to be not simple at all. We ultimately had to get a telegram from the State Department approving the wedding. We had to see a Peace Corps psychiatrist. We applied for our wedding license in Hilo, where some Maryknoll priests who had been run out of China in 1948 were hanging out waiting to go back. So they took us under their wing and arranged for our wedding in Honolulu. When we got to Honolulu, the morning we left was the final day of deselection. Rosemary and I had made a pact that if one of us were deselected, then we would probably both go. That became somewhat an interesting dilemma because her parents were on a flight coming from Boston to Honolulu to meet us. Fortunately, we both made it, and when we got to Honolulu, we found out that our marriage license wasn't valid because it was not issued in Oahu County. The governor's office got involved, managed to find a judge who opened a court on the morning of our wedding, which was Labor Day, waived the 3-day waiting period, and the wedding went on. So it was a wonderful experience. Yeah, the deselection process, as some of you may remember, was kind of a posting of on a bulletin board at a certain point in time and day, and you went in. If your name was not there, you had made it. You go on to the next level. And I think there were 3 periods of deselection.
They sent us on a hike tomorrow.
Yeah, oh, that's right. Yeah, we would all go. They would exactly right. They scheduled on the days of the deselection a long hike, and we all took off. And in the process of our hiking and exhausting ourselves, when we came back from that activity, the names were posted, and the folks who were deselected were gone that evening. They were on a plane back out. And so the final deselection day was the day before the Labor Day weekend when we were on our way to Honolulu, but had that little cloud of deselection hanging over both of us. And we did make a pact that if one of us were to be deselected, we probably both would leave. But
My parents President's plane was going.
Yeah, and what made it a little bit more interesting is that while we were going to be on our way to Honolulu to be married, my wife's parents were on a plane flying from Boston to Honolulu, and we would either greet them and let them come to the wedding, or, and if we had been deselected, we would have got the next plane back home.
And our best man, Jim Dries, we're going to be married 50 years next September. And if she ever sees us, we're looking for Susie Wilson, who stood up for us, and we don't know where she is. But we'll have Jim Dries with us, who was our best man.
Put that in, I'll have to remember that. Yeah, that call will be out on your video. That's good, yeah. Okay. That name rings a bell.
I'm Jim Dries. I was in the Philippines. I was on the island of Palawan. The closest village was called Nara, Panakan, and the years were 63 to 65. The first groups were just coming back as we were going over. We had one couple that got married in Honolulu after the Peace Corps training before we went overseas, and they're still close friends. After the end of training, Sergeant Shriver, just an incredible young man at that time, and obviously, like all of us, he got not to be so young as time went on, but he was coming back from the Philippines receiving a Magsaysay Award. And as I mentioned, there was a couple, Bob and Rosemary Carter, who got married, and I was fortunate enough to be their best man. And we had a bachelor party for them after John D. Rockefeller hosted a reception for our group at the Philippine consulate in Honolulu, the now senator. Jay Rockefeller, not John D., excuse me, Jay Rockefeller, now Senator Rockefeller. Shriver was being brought around by the leader of our group, who was a history professor at the University of Hawaii. And we went from one night spot to another, and just always saying as we leave, if Jake Stalker, the history teacher that was taking Shriver around, or anyone else are looking for the Carter wedding party, here's where we are. And he followed us for 3 spots until he got to the final spot we were at, and spent about an hour with us having a beer. I mean, this was a guy who had, just an example of his energy level and his commitment to the volunteers. He didn't have to do this at all. He'd been traveling nonstop, basically, from the Philippines, been getting a Magsaysay Award there, like a sort of their equivalent, I guess, of a Nobel Peace Prize, on the go constantly at this reception, and was flying back to Washington the next day. But yet he found us, and he had time to spend an hour with us. Just a wonderful, lovely man, and a great leader of the Peace Corps. Years later, there was it was the 25th anniversary of the Philippines Peace Corps group in Washington, D.C., and I attended that, just like I went to this 50th anniversary of the Peace Corps last fall. And Sergeant Shriver was there, and his family was there. And he spoke to the group, and his family spoke to the group. And when he spoke to the group, his whole family was lined up in the row right in front of the podium. And the way the seating was lined up, I was basically in the front row, kind of perpendicular to that, and I could watch the family watching him, and it was, no matter how famous they were, Maria Shriver or others, they were looking at him in a way that children look at their father, with just great admiration and respect. And I had the opportunity to tell him that at night, and as a father myself, how wonderful that is to see that love and that admiration. And he seemed to really enjoy having an opportunity to hear that, and I was pleased that I was able to share that with him and remind him of the graciousness he exhibited in coming to that bachelor party. And then, of course, there was the grieving when President Kennedy was assassinated. It was a Saturday in the Philippines, and a group of teachers, we were going to go on a picnic together and just kind of have a nice weekend Saturday together. And then we just found out about the loss of the president, and the outpouring of sympathy and the outpouring of expressions of support for the president and what we were doing was just, it was sad to have to behold it, but it was gracious and heartwarming to be able to behold it.